Hey folks, Ray Cole here from Audio Legend. Imagine this. You walk into a room, play some music, and someone asks, "What speakers are those?" You smile and say, "Ones that most people have completely forgotten about. Yet they sound better than half the premium stuff costing thousands." That's exactly what we're diving into today. I've ranked 10 epic speakers the world ignores but still dominate. These aren't the flashy new releases everyone's hyping. These are the quiet legends, the ones reviewers moved on from, but real listeners refuse to let go. Some cost pocket change. Some are bigger beasts. All of them deliver ridiculous performance for what they are. And the speaker sitting at number one, it might make you question every audio purchase you've made in the last 5 years. If you're done with marketing noise and want real, honest sound that actually moves you, stay with me. This one's going to be fun. Hit subscribe and turn on notifications if you love this kind of hidden gem hunting. Let's get into it. Micca RB42XG2, $109. Number 10 brings us the Micca RB42XG2. Right now, you can grab a pair for around $109. Micca is that small American company that refuses to cut corners even at crazy low prices. With the G2 version, they went back to the drawing board and refined the crossover, making these little speakers far more listenable at everyday volumes. But here's the funny part. Almost nobody talks about them anymore. Why? Because they got overshadowed by the constant flood of new Chinese brands and flashy marketing on YouTube and Reddit. People moved on to the next big thing before these had a chance to build a big reputation. When I first fired them up in my living room, I was genuinely caught off guard. The bass has this thick, juicy, almost caramely warmth with a noticeable lift in the lower mids, something you almost never hear from a 4-inch woofer. It gives male and female vocals a rich, full-bodied presence that makes Norah Jones or Billie Eilish sound intimate and alive. The treble carries a gentle sparkle that adds air and detail without ever crossing into harsh territory. Soundstage is surprisingly wide, and layered for such a compact box, you can clearly place guitars and backing vocals in their own space. I've spent hours with these playing everything from soft acoustic folk and vocal jazz to upbeat pop playlists. At moderate volumes, they feel surprisingly mature and engaging. Many people on Reddit and audio forums echo the same feeling. These sound like speakers that should cost twice as much when you're just chilling in the living room. What makes them stand out is how different they feel from the usual bright, thin, shouty budget speakers. They have soul. They have texture. They invite you to keep listening instead of wearing you out after 20 minutes. Of course, they're not perfect. They're not neutral studio monitors. The bass can loosen up if you really push the volume, and pairing them with a bright amplifier can make the top end a little forward. But at this price, those compromises feel very forgivable. If you're shopping, grab them on Amazon and check that the drivers look clean and undamaged. Refoaming is cheap and straightforward, usually around $30.40 per driver. They pair beautifully with a small subwoofer if you want more low-end weight, and they're easy to drive, even with modest amplifiers or small desktop setups. It may be small and inexpensive, but it proves that real musical enjoyment doesn't always come with a big price tag. If you're loving these under-the-radar discoveries, hit subscribe. We've got plenty more where this came from. Here's one that got unfairly forgotten along the way. The Nomi BS5, currently sitting at about $120. It launched 4 or 5 years ago and then basically vanished from the conversation. While everyone was busy chasing the next viral Chinese brand or the latest TikTok-reviewed speaker, the BS5 just kept doing its job in the background. No loud marketing, no constant YouTube hype, it simply got left behind. But the people who actually own one, they're not in any hurry to replace it. Set these up, and the first impression is balance. A 5.2 5-inch woofer paired with a 0.75-inch soft dome tweeter in a cleverly ported cabinet gives you a smooth, natural mid-range that makes voices feel real and present. Bass is tighter and more disciplined than you'd expect. It reaches down to roughly 60 hertzes with good control instead of loose boom. The soundstage opens up wider than the small box suggests, letting instruments breathe and sit in their own space. Plenty of owners pair them with a Wheem Ultra and call the combo shockingly good for $120. They're the speaker you forget is even there in the best possible way. The build is better than most at this price. Solid cabinet, clean finish, and sensitivity around 86 decibels means even modest amps or small desktop systems can make them sing. Add a compact sub, and the whole system suddenly feels like it costs twice as much. They're not bass monsters. Crank them with heavy rock or EDM, and the low end eventually runs out of breath. They're refined daily drivers, not party animals. When shopping, check the ports front and back for any dust buildup or damage. Refoaming the woofers is cheap and easy, usually $40, $50 per driver. They sit happily on stands or shelves and don't need fancy electronics to shine. The Numei BS5 is the perfect example of a quiet achiever. It doesn't scream for your attention, but once you live with it, you understand why some people never upgrade. Reliable, musical, and seriously good value in 2026. That's exactly why it earns its place at number 9 on our list of epic speakers the world ignores but still dominate. Hit subscribe. Numei Silk 4, $149. Next up at number 8 is something a bit more lively. The Numei Silk 4 sitting around the $149 mark. If the BS5 feels like the polite, well-behaved friend, the Silk 4 is the one who brings extra energy to the party. Same strong build, same attention to detail, but with a noticeably more dynamic and fun tuning. It uses a 4-inch woofer paired with a 7 5-inch soft dome tweeter in a front-ported cabinet specifically tuned for better dynamics and speed than the BS5. Right out of the gate, you feel the difference. The bass moves with more snap and speed, reaching down to around 60 Hz with improved punch and better transient response. The mid-range steps forward with greater presence and clarity, and the whole speaker just seems more alive and engaging. It's the kind of speaker that makes you want to turn it up a little and nod your head. Throw on an upbeat pop track or energetic indie rock, and you'll immediately notice how percussion has real snap guitars cut through with more bite, and vocals sit forward with attitude. Modern electronic music feels more exciting while still maintaining good control. I've spent many evenings with these, playing everything from The Weeknd and Dua Lipa to current indie bands like Tame Impala or Phoebe Bridgers. They strike a sweet spot, fun enough to enjoy at higher volumes, yet refined enough to listen for hours without fatigue. The soundstage is open enough to give instruments their own space, and the dynamics are noticeably better than the calmer BS5. Sensitivity sits around 8, 5, 80, 6 decibels, making them easy to drive even with modest amplifiers or small desktop setup. They're still small speakers, so deep sub-bass has its physical limits. If you mainly blast heavy EDM or hip-hop at high volumes, you'll eventually want a subwoofer. But for normal room listening at moderate to loud levels, they deliver way more character and enjoyment than their size suggests. The build quality continues. Numei's strong reputation, solid brace cabinet, clean finish, and good attention to detail. When shopping, check the surrounds carefully for any cracks or softness. Refoaming is straightforward and inexpensive if needed. The Silk 4 shows what a little extra tuning can do. It takes the solid balanced foundation of the BS5 and adds more life rhythm and excitement without sacrificing the clean Numei character. What a nice step up in energy while keeping the strengths that made the BS5 popular. Cambridge Audio SX50, SX60 $199, $299. Refusing to disappear no matter how many years pass at number 7, we have the Cambridge Audio SX series, especially the SX60, priced between $199 and $299. Cambridge hasn't felt the need to change the price in 4 or 5 years, and the SX60 with its 6 5-inch woofer is still one of the few options in this range that actually gives you real low-end presence and authority. Why has it been overlooked? Simple. It doesn't have flashy new technology, it doesn't get constant influencer hype, and it doesn't come with RGB lights or app control. In an era where everyone chases the newest thing, a reliable, well-made British speaker from a few years ago gets quietly forgotten. But the people who own them know better. Put on some classic rock or acoustic music and the difference is obvious. The 6 5-inch woofer gives the music real weight and foundation that smaller drivers simply can't match. The mid-range stays clean and natural. The treble has good extension without being sharp, and it handles busy, complex tracks without falling apart or sounding congested. These aren't the newest kids on the block, but they do so many things right that they've earned a loyal following. The design is a bit old school, but once the music starts, you stop noticing the looks. They're easy to drive and pair beautifully with both vintage receivers like Pioneer or Marantz and modern Class D amps. If you have a small to medium room and want a speaker that can play loud without strain, the SX60 is one of the smartest choices in this price range. Keep an eye on the woofer surrounds. They sometimes need refoaming after a few years, usually around $50.70 per driver. It's a simple job, and parts are still easy to find. Even in 2026, the Cambridge SX60 remains one of the strongest value buys in bookshelf speakers. It's not the most fashionable choice, but it's one of the most satisfying. Coming in at number 6 is a warm little sleeper, the Elac BS41, often available between $120 and $179. This Amazon-exclusive model carries that signature Elac warmth from the early Andrew Jones era. When it goes on sale, it becomes one of the strongest pound-for-pound values you can find. Listening to these, you get a rich, full-bodied presentation that makes vocals sound sweet and inviting. The bass has surprising punch for the size, and the overall tone is relaxed and easy on the ears. A lot of people run them for hours without any listening fatigue. There's even an active DIY scene-sharing crossover mods that take the performance up another notch. I've used them for everything from late-night vocal jazz to laid-back weekend playlists. At $120, $130 on sale, they feel almost too good to be true. The stock crossover is the weakest point, which is why some enthusiasts mod them. Hunt for lightning deals on Amazon and always check the drivers. Refoaming is straightforward if needed. The BS41 reminds us that sometimes an older model that's been forgotten can still deliver serious musical satisfaction. That's why it sits at number 6. Wharfedale 12.4 Tower, $750, $1, $300. Stepping up to number 5, we have a proper floor stander. The Wharfedale 12.4 Tower, typically selling between $750 on sale and $1,300 at full price. This speaker brings that classic Wharfedale warmth, but with better clarity and refinement than their older, overly soft models. The build quality is excellent, and the dual woofer design gives it real authority in the low end. One of my audiophile friends actually prefers these to a pair of $88,000 speakers in his system for certain types of music. That tells you how special they can sound in the right room. The mid-range is beautiful and natural, the bass is deep and controlled, and there's enough air on top to keep things interesting. They excel with rock orchestral music and well-recorded vocals. At full price, they're good. When they drop to $750, $900, they become an absolute no-brainer. The main downside is the original MSRP feels a bit high, so patience in waiting for sales is key. Look for good condition veneer and check the drivers. These towers can fill a medium to large room beautifully and still sound composed. A surprising tower that consistently punches above its price tag, that's why the Wharfedale 12.4 sits at number 5. Wharfedale Denton, 80th edition, $500, $600. Number 4 takes us to something beautiful. The Wharfedale Denton 80th edition, usually found around $500 to $600. This speaker celebrates Wharfedale's heritage with real wood veneer and the same high build quality as their more expensive Heritage series. It often gets overlooked because of the flashier 85th edition and Super Denton models, but many people quietly consider it one of the sweetest sounding options in the lineup. The voicing is nicely neutral with a touch of warmth that makes vocals sound rich and lifelike. The cabinet design has that classic British charm that looks elegant in a living room. It's the kind of speaker you can stare at while listening and still feel happy. I've enjoyed it with everything from intimate jazz trios to singer-songwriter albums. The balance is natural, the mid-range is expressive, and it never feels fatiguing even during long sessions. Bass isn't as punchy as the bigger 12.4 Tower, but for most rooms, it's more than enough. Buy from reputable sellers like Music Direct or the official Wharfedale site. Check the veneer condition carefully. Timeless design, refined sound, and real musicality, the Denton 80th edition is a true hidden classic. That's why it lands proudly at number 4 on our list. Here's one that has a serious cult following sitting at number 3 is the Philharmonic Mini Monitor, around $380. Their website looks straight out of the late 90s, but the speakers themselves are anything but outdated. These small two-way monitors deliver a lively, dynamic, and musically engaging sound that punches well above their price. Put on almost any genre and they respond with enthusiasm. Bass is surprisingly tight and rhythmic for the size. The mid-range is clean and expressive, and the treble has natural air and sparkle. They create a wide, believable soundstage that makes instruments feel properly placed in the room. Many owners say they've tried more expensive speakers and still keep coming back to these because they simply make music fun again. They're neutral enough for critical listening, but musical enough for long, relaxed sessions. The biggest challenge is actually buying them. The website is old and stock disappears quickly. If you manage to grab a pair, you'll understand why so many people quietly swear by them. A true hidden gem that refuses to fade away. That's why the Philharmonic Mini Monitor takes the strong number 3 spot. SVS Prime Bookshelf, $600. Getting dangerously close to the top at number 2 is the SVS Prime Bookshelf, currently sitting at $599.98. That's odd. 98 price is often a quiet signal that SVS may be phasing this model out, which could mean some very attractive discounts soon. These are proper 6'2", 5-inch bookshelf speakers with an aluminum dome tweeter that brings real punch and clarity. Female vocals sound stunningly clean, and forward percussion has excellent snap, and the bass is authoritative for the size. The build quality is excellent and they look sharp in any setup. I've heard quite a few people say these are among the last fun but refined speakers in this price range. The aluminum tweeter gives cymbals and hi-hats nice energy, though some listeners find them slightly bright depending on the room and partnering gear. At $600, they're already strong contenders. If they drop further, they become an absolute no-brainer. Keep an eye on Crutchfield and SVS's own site. They're easy to drive and work beautifully with both modest and higher-end electronic. Still excellent in 2026 and one of the safest recommendations around this price. That's why the SVS Prime Bookshelf earns the number 2 position. $150–$300. $350. And claiming the top spot on this list of speakers the world ignores but still dominate is the KEF-Q 150. Real-world street price right now is $300 to $350. A lot of longtime KEF fans believe this might be the last truly great budget speaker the company made before they shifted direction with the newer Meta series. The famous Uni-Q driver really shines here. You get usable, tuneful bass that most small key EFs struggle to produce, combined with beautiful openness and air on top. The mid-range is detailed and natural vocals are excellent, and the soundstage is impressively wide and precise. It handles rock with energy, jazz with finesse, and acoustic music with beautiful realism. Many people who have compared it to more expensive KEF models say they actually prefer the Q150 because it's less fatiguing and more balanced overall. The main catch is stock is disappearing fast. Hunt for good deals quickly and always inspect the Uni-Q driver carefully when buying. These are easy to drive and don't need exotic amplification to sound their best. This is currently the best combination of real performance and value you can get under $350. That's exactly why the KEF-Q 150 proudly takes the number 1 position. And that's the list 10 epic speakers the world has forgotten but are still quietly dominating in 2026. Here's the truth. You don't need to spend thousands to get fantastic sound. Some of the best speakers right now are the ones most people have stopped talking about. My advice: stop chasing hype. Start hunting value. Listen with your own ears, be patient, and you'll find speakers that punch way harder than their price tag. If this video just saved you money or changed the way you look at speakers, smash that like button. Drop a comment which one surprised you the most, or tell me your own hidden gem. And if you want more real up-to-date rankings like this every week, hit subscribe and turn on the bell right now. I'm Ray Cole from Audio Legend. Thanks for watching. Now go find yourself one of these gems. See you in the next one.